For this practice session, we are going to be reviewing TEM on May 8th. This one I was not able to catch in real time, although in hindsight, this provided really good opportunity. One of the main things being, well, first let me start. Why are we looking at TEM? First, we had earnings the day before on 5/7. We actually had earnings on 5/6 after hours, and 5/7 was the reaction day. The earnings were we had a revenue beat, an EPS beat, and raised guidance, which is pretty good. We had two beats across the board and raised guidance. I'd say that's more than a 7 out of 10 for the news catalyst, perhaps an 8 out of 10. TEM has reacted well before off news. We had a good reaction off this earnings. Let me see what date it was. 11/4. Okay, interesting. Sorry, scratch that. This is a newish stock, and it has a history of trading cleanly in the past. As you can see, we finally have the 1 day 200 SMA data on. And on the earnings day reaction, we actually broke below $50, a strong psych level, and we got bought back up. We got bought back up all the way above all the moving averages, and we closed towards the near last pivot high. We pretty much closed right there. Now, the problem with what I did was we have this pivot at March 25th, and I had put my resistance line at the top of that. So a couple of problems, a couple of issues that could pop up is this the true level? We do have this 60 psych level, which if we bring it down, we actually weren't able to close above it at this time in March. We broke above, but then we closed below. Next day, we kind of tested that same $60 level. So we have 3 days of information showing that price could not close above 60. And we also have a very close alignment to this pivot on May 2nd. So instead of, this is a little bit more nuanced when analyzing the daily, but instead of just being a stickler and putting it at the top of this wick high, we can look into the price action a little more. We also see that we couldn't hold above the 50 MA. And how to find this stock is we pretty much have to scan after hours the night before and see what moved. We can see that TEM moved about 12% yesterday, and we are opening pretty much flat. This is like a minute into the market open. And so either we can have this off our watch lists and set an alert at the $60 psych, or we can just leave this on our watch list and see how it opens up. If we look at the 3 minute, let's see the previous day. So we can see on day one, we sold off and we got bought right back up. A very clean move respecting the 90 MA, showing that the buyers are stepping up. And we pulled back once, not twice, at the 50 MA. And we just pretty much continue to surf it all on day one, with price closing at the very near highs, very far away from VWAP. Unfortunately, this doesn't have my higher time frame day two continuation pattern where I would be entering on a bigger time frame picture. But nonetheless, this is still a strong watch. We can see that in the pre-market today, we tested that $60 level and we immediately got rejected. It wasn't very liquid during PM. And you can see that we pretty much opened at the pre-market ranges lows. So pulling up Trading Sim, we're going to go ahead and play this out. I forgot to rate the technical chart. I would rate it at least at least a 6 out of 10 right now. If we break that $60 level again, I think that's a lot of confluence at that level, and I'd pretty much bump up this size to a 7 out of 10 on the daily chart score. So really strong news. This is day two, and it looks like we opened low, but we got bought right back up. If we look at this volume bar, we had 660,000 shares traded in the first 3 minutes. Like I said, I think if we break this level at 60, which we are doing right now, I think this bumps up the daily to a 7 out of 10. So overall, 8 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10. We actually have some strong volume coming through at that level. So I'd be willing to risk about 75% daily stop. Out of 133, or I'm sorry, my daily stop for the day is 137. times 0.75. So I'm willing to risk $103 on this idea if it does set up. The 5 minute isn't acting accordingly, but on the 10 minute we do have that igniting bar. The 5 minute we have the igniting bar and we have the range closing within the previous bar, but the setup is still a little volatile on the 3 minute. I need it to tighten up in order to get some strong conviction, and that right there let me know that I'm not going to be, FOMOing into this trade because it already broke the lows. But on the 10 minute, you can see that we have a nice inside range bar, and we're going to see how this plays out. As you can see, we're getting bought up at the 3 minute 21 EMA. That was a pretty big reaction to it again. But buyers are stepping up at these intraday moving averages. Still looking for 6 more minutes of information. Let me go ahead and see the risk reward. So 60-20. So 71. So pretty wide range. It's nice that we tested pretty much previous day's close. We got bought right back up. If this actually does set up for me, then I am going to use the EMA as a trail. This price action is not extended from the moving averages, so there's no reason to be aggressive with a bar by bar trail. This is going to eat about 1/4 of my buying power. So this is actually a name that you could size up on. All right, I just set my order. Hopefully this candle closes tight. You can see that we're now getting bought up at the 9 EMA. I mean, we were actually getting bought up this whole time. And we did have an inside bar candle. Gives me more conviction. And let me check real quick. TEM is a 7.5 ADR stock. So this is something that can definitely grow the account. As you can see here on the daily, the bottom left, we are so close to that 6140s. And we get bought up right there. Our entry got triggered. Now we are setting our stop at the previous 10-minute bar low. And right away, we're seeing such strength. If this strength continues and continues to be aggressive, then I'll probably be looking to trail bar by bar. This is almost approaching 1R from my entry. So that means I'm moving my stop to break even on this and just letting it play out. We see the volume breaking out on the 10-minute compared to the previous bar. And we entered on the second bar up on the 15-minute. So still relatively, the move is still relatively fresh. We're not extended on the 15-minute. This is because, we opened at the pre-market range low, so we didn't have a bunch of bars trailing up. And at this point, I went over a SOXS trade on another video, and we had something where it was pattern replication, except on the 10-minute, it was on the 15-minute. So we get the first pattern here, and then now TEM on the 10-minute, we're actually getting a repetition pattern where we have the igniting move, and I'm looking for an inside bar, and I'm looking to buy the break of the 10-minute prior bar highs versus the prior bar lows. I still need another 7 minutes of information. Right now, I'm just chilling in the green for my first entry. Oh, we get a pop at high a day, but price is rejecting downwards. Going to see how this candle forms. It's important that we close pretty much below the previous bar's range, maybe like right at it. I'd still be interested. So something like 62.70 minus 61.37. I'm actually looking to risk more on this setup because, as you can see on the daily at the bottom left, we are actually clearing that pivot, which is what I wanted to see prior. But, using the nuances of the daily chart and the catalyst, I think it was okay to take the first setup at the $60 psych. I say psych as in like it's a whole number, and, other traders might be paying attention to it. So I'm going to get my order ready. 30 more seconds. And the candle closed on the 10-minute, so I set my order above. Let's see if we get triggered in. We did get triggered in. I have a total of 161 shares, and I'm bringing it right below that previous bar's lows on the 10-minute. And so far, we are getting good follow through. But we actually closed within the range, and now the second candle, let's see if it can hold up. We didn't have the volume confirmation, unfortunately. If we just look at the prior price action, we are getting extended. So I think on this setup, I will be looking to trail bar by bar lows if we get to 1R. So 62, 68 by 61.36. So I'm looking for a $1.33 move. So that would be around 63. That would be almost at 64. Let's see if we get there. Yeah, 1R move from my second entry would be 64. So after this hits 64, I am looking to trail bar by bar just because the second setup for me is extended from the 9 EMA. This first one wasn't, so that's what kept me in trailing and not stopping bar by bar at this point. At first, like on this 10-minute setup, I was like, it's a shorter time frame. I just want to bar by bar everything on it, but trading is so nuanced, and sometimes I would see the bar by bar working or the EMA trail working. Now, what I've noticed looking at the past setups on the 10-minute charts, if we have this type of move extended from the EMA, it's better to trail bar by bar because the intraday price action is just too extended. At this point, price hasn't hit 1R, but I do want to protect my risk and just raise my risk a couple of cents up. If we pull back so drastically, then that probably means that the setup's going to fail. And I definitely want to be out for that. I think I risked around 80 to 90% daily stop on my second entry. And this is because the daily. Usually I like to risk less on the ad, but we are up well above break even on my first entry. And we're breaking this key pivot that I just drew right here with igniting volume. So I think that's reasonable. As you can see on the 15-minute, I am buying on the third bar up. If that's the case, then the price action needs to look okay on the 5-minute as well as the 10-minute. Usually I like to buy in the first two bars. We are getting close to that 64 level. This is the part where I kind of get antsy. Getting close to it. I'm going to move my stop a little bit more. And we get that $64 break. So at this point, I'm trailing bar by bar. Let's see how far this can take me. We have a nice daily breakout as seen on the bottom left. We are getting extended on the 15-minute, hence the reason why I think bar by bar is actually better, because it would be completely normal if price, pulled back to the 21 MA, but I'm looking for a short-term move. If we zoom in, yes, this violated the previous bar's lows by 4 cents. So I would either be tagged out at 63.80, but I got lucky that I didn't bring it up in time. Anyways, there we go. We got sold out of all the position using bar by bar. The first entry, we used the 9 EMA. And let's go ahead and look at the analytics. And this was a pretty clean trade. It was just the daily chart was tricky. The daily chart was very tricky. We held for 50 minutes and we closed out for a $347 profit. So That is 253% daily stop win on this. The first entry was pretty much risk free. After we moved out of it and the ad, I did risk more. Um, Look, boom, right there, we would have missed out on some profits. Nothing too crazy, but as you can see, we did pull back to the 21 EMA. And if we look at the 15, it's just so extended. This is completely natural price action movement. Maybe we find support on that daily pivot if the stock is strong. But I also forgot to say, before this time, we did have a UK US trade deal announcement, and it was publicized before it was released. So that's one thing to consider. Yesterday, we did have FOMC. And yeah, this was overall a pretty good trade. This is something that could definitely boost the account. I definitely want to focus on interpreting the daily better. I also forgot to touch on this volume bar. It's distinctive, but it's still top 4%, or it's the top four highest volume bars. We had one, two, three, but it is distinctive. We do have that volume breakout, which is really nice to start the move off of good earnings. So instead of just being, very strict on putting the horizontal bar at the wick pivot high, it's important to take some time after hours, interpret this chart, interpret what's a good level and why. I really like the confluence with the price not being able to close above it and testing it, as well as $60 being a whole number. And we also tested this level during the pre-market. But that is my trade recap for TEM, and I'm looking forward to executing properly on future setups like this.